Alright, so once you've downloaded the Andy folder and you've extracted it, this is how you make sure to open it up and keep working with it. So what we need to do is it's already been downloaded. I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Set Project. And I'll find the Andy folder. You see I have several because I do several versions, but let's just choose one of them. I go inside that folder, I don't highlight anything, and I say Set. From this moment on, anything that you bring in or work on has to reside inside of the Andy folder. So that means any sounds that you're going to use for lip sync, if you're going to use your room set, you'll have to import the room set and the folders into the Andy folder, or bring the models in one by one if you have them saved out that way. Nothing should be outside of the Andy folder when you're working on the animation. So I go to File, Open, and I go to my Scenes folder. You won't have as many files in here. You'll probably just have the Andy Rig or Andy Start, depending on which version you downloaded. I'm just going to go with Andy Start. Andy Rig would also work. And I hit Open. Ignore this if this pops up. All right. So now, here's Andy. And now I've got Andy all set up. If it comes in like this, so I just press 5, press 6 so you could see the textures. The quality of the textures is going to be based off of the hardware you're using. So you may get the textures a little blurrier. You may get them sharp like this. Now, if your Andy comes out orange, like just bright orange all over, then what you need to do is go to Windows, Settings and Preferences, Preferences. Go to Display, and under Rendering Engine, it's probably set to OpenGL Core Profile Strict, or something similar to that. Whether you're on a Mac or a PC, it's going to show up differently and you'll have different options. On a PC, I just use DirectX 11. If you're on a Mac or an older machine and it's not an NVIDIA card, you want to go to OpenGL Legacy. And OpenGL Legacy should fix that. But if I actually switch it, it's going to say, hey, you're going to have to restart Maya. I'm going to switch it back to DirectX 11. I would hit Save. I'd close Maya. And then I'd have to reopen it for those settings to take place. So I go back in, I open Maya. Hit OK. It takes a second for everything to backload. And since the last thing that I worked on was that Andy project, I should be able to just go either open scene or recent files, and the project should be set already. You can see that's the one at the top, the Andy project. So if I just open the Andy Start, don't save, continue, then we're good, and you should see the textures at that point. The next video we'll go over is how to manipulate the controls of Andy. But that's basically how we get all set up for the poses and for animating. There's one other thing we need to do. For the pose assignment, you want to make sure we never want to modify and change and save over the original Andy Start or the Andy Rig file. So before I do anything to Andy, I go to File, Save Scene As, go to my Scenes folder, and in this case I already have one, but I'm just going to type in, you would type in, let's say it's Thai Pose 1. Obviously, you might use your name or whatever. And this is going to be for the actual emotion that you choose. You're not going to name it. When you render out your images, you don't want to name like, hey, this is happy 1 or sad 1, because people are supposed to look and be able to see what it is. Okay, so this one we're going to do there. So type pose 1, save as, continue. And now I can do whatever I want to this one, and when I'm ready to start my next, and then I'll render out my poses, which we'll show in the next couple of videos, I can always go back to that start with a nice, clean, fresh Andy that's in a T-pose. This is called a T-pose. And then work to get whatever animation or poses that I want, and then render.